What's up? Here we go. We're doing this again. Welcome, everyone. I am Sergio, and we are talking about this big whole topic, which is called storytelling, visual storytelling. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to be talking today about a couple of key tips for storytelling. And I welcome you guys. As you can see on screen, you can check out the rest of our schedule for Lightbox at prostoryboardart.org/LBX220. And I welcome you guys to also participate in the chat. It's blowing up in the chat already. I love it. I love it. So show of hands, how many of you guys were in our previous chat here earlier, a couple hours earlier? I don't know, give me a thumbs up or a shout or a smiley face or whatever in the chat there. I hope you enjoyed that talk. I did myself. And so let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today, and I'll introduce myself and give you the updates and all that in a second, but I want to just kind of prep you about what we're going to be talking about today. So I do have 5 key tips. Now, these are just general tips because there is so much to talk about with visual storytelling. But I'm going to do a little demo. I'm going to show you a couple slides, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So hopefully this will inspire you to do more visual storytelling, to get your storyboards in gear, and do all that stuff. So let me do a couple announcements here about Lightbox Expo for one. Let's give a big thanks, big round of applause. Everybody should shout out and cheer for the guys at Lightbox Expo. They've been working really hard behind the scenes to put this together and move from an in-person event in Pasadena to this wonderful online event. Now, I think everything with the servers that's up and running really well. I think the Discord has been blowing up. So Lightbox Expo has their own Discord channel. If you're registered for Lightbox, I recommend you guys go in that Discord channel, and how about you do us a big solid, you do us a big favor. You can post this link. Let me put it up on screen, because we're going to be doing a lot of talks this weekend from prostoryboardart.org/LBX220. If you could tell others to come here, and let me tell you why. Because in this chat, just like you saw on the last time we did this event, or the last stream that we did, we had a really good conversation, and we invited people to share their social media handles, to share their websites, and connect with each other. And so if you could do us a big solid and tell people that's what we're doing here, we want to grow this community and get as many people as we can to understand what's going on with storytelling. And this is the kind of network that we're gonna grow with. That these are people are going to help us when we're looking for jobs, and when we're out there and need some comments and need some improvement. This is the community that we're going to grow for that. So I invite everybody to participate in the Discord and give a friendly reminder to everybody out there. All right, let's get right into this stuff. Now, again, a little bit of the format here. You'll see the comments in Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to respond to all of that as we go along. I do want to give a little bit of presentation. It's probably going to take about 20, maybe 30 minutes for me to get through all of the slides and the topics that I want to talk about today. And then I'm going to do a little demo, and then we're going to go in and have a big chunk of conversation and Q&A at the end. So hopefully that will keep you guys inspired and excited about all the things that we have. I will also say, too, at that link that I just showed you guys, you can see the rest of the schedule that we're doing. Tomorrow, we have a really awesome roundtable chat with a bunch of pro story artists, and these guys are buddies of mine, and I've worked with many of them, and we're all going to be talking about the latest in the biz. So I look forward to that. And later on this evening, we're going to be doing the portfolio review, and I'll also mention some more details as we go along in this chat. All right, so let's get started with this. I think the first thing I want to do is I want to share my screen here. Let me get this set up. I did prepare a couple of slides, so I do want to show and share that with you. Let me bring up my screen. Oh, before that, I gotta move my feed to another monitor here. Give me a second as I set this up and share screen. All right. This is what I want to show. There it is. Cool. Okay. I can see that now. Let me make this big. Are we seeing it? Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. So hopefully you guys are also seeing this too. And I basically, this is the title of our talk here. We're going to be talking about 5 key storyboarding tips for success, because that's what we want. We want a lot of success with what we're doing. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you guys who don't know, I think most of you guys already do, because it's great to have familiar faces in this chat. So I love that there's a lot of people that we recognize online and offline for this. Well, I'm Sergio Paez. I've been a story artist for, man, it's got to be going on 25 years now. And I've also now moved into directing. So I've worked on a number of things, from commercials to features to TV shows to virtual reality to video games, all the way through. And it's all been kind of professional storyboarding, right? So that's what it is. Now, you can see some of the movies that I worked on and some of the projects there. I just put a couple, but a lot of my career has been at Lucasfilm and working on Star Wars projects. So I worked on Star Wars Rebels and Resistance. And I'm also now a mentor at storyboardart.org. I'll talk a little bit about that. But a lot of you guys, there's a couple of my crew out here, my mentorship alum that are in the chat today. So this is something that I've said before, and I think some of you have seen this, but my goal with a talk like this is basically to hit two types of people. And I get really excited about young artists who are getting into the business and that they can understand visual storytelling and know that they have a career in this, that this is a career choice that you, just like anything else, like if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, accountant or whatever, those traditional, kind of careers, you can do the same thing in art and you can do the same thing in storytelling. There really is that much work out there, and it's something that you can have a long career. So like I said, I'm going on 25 years and I've never worked in anything else. After college, I started, doing illustration, animation, and then story. And that's what I ended up doing. And I plan to do it for, for the rest of my career too. So that's one group, is the young artists. And I also invite the experienced guys. So these are guys who maybe have worked as animators. Maybe they've also worked as story artists out there. And I'm hoping to give you guys a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of boost. Now, that doesn't mean I have all the answers. I can't, I won't be able to unlock maybe some new magic for you. But what I really want to do is, one, connect with each other, and hopefully that it gives you the boost and the inspiration that will get you to the next level and the next level of jobs. Now, I've seen this because I've been mentored by other people, and people that, have more years than me, 10 more years in the industry than me. And those are my veteran guys that I lean on. And then now that, I've kind of come up, I consider myself a veteran too. And, I still look up to those guys, and I see the path that they've gone. And many have moved on into, developing shows and becoming directors and just having more responsibility. And I really love the fact that this can be a lifetime career choice for doing storytelling. So I invite guys with experience and young artists. All you have to do is have a passion for what we're doing here. So if you don't know what we represent and who we are, shameless plug is go to storyboardart.org. Now, right now it's going to redirect to the Lightbox page for this weekend, but you can definitely sign up for our social media and all the other goodies that we have there. We offer and sponsor a lot of free content because this does help us grow the community here. That's when we discovered is the best way to get the word out is just to have people come for free. You can come in and watch it if you want. If you get something out of it, great. That's why we ask you to share and pass it along, because that's how we grow. And if you're really into something cool, then you can look at the paid stuff later on, right? But so one of the free trainings that we're doing now is the Drawing and Portfolio Challenge. So I welcome a lot of you guys who are doing that over this week and next week. That's awesome. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Okay. So let's get into the first tip here. The first one is become a master of your tools. Okay. And now I have a tool specific talk I'm going to be doing during the Lightbox weekend, but I really wanted to talk about just how to get some setup and what you're doing. So let me move to Photoshop. Hopefully you guys can see that, right? Yeah. So I'm in Photoshop now, and I did a video a while back of how to set up Photoshop for doing storyboards. And I think a lot of people really like that. I got a pretty good response. And this is a template that I use a lot, but I just, I brought this up to kind of show you how I set things up. But you really need to be a master of your tools. Whether back in the day, it was just like using markers and ink and, drawing on paper and having the format, but you need to understand like what these things mean, right? Like this is the aspect ratio, this square that we have here. This is all the stuff that we usually do. You need a composition. You need a frame to start out with your composition. And then you have to create something within that frame that's pretty awesome. But in order to do that, you have to be a master of your tools. You have to know what's up with like the Wacom pen, with the Photoshop. And I'm using the latest CC tools here. Now, one thing that I will show you is my set of brushes and quick actions that I have. So one of them that I have is this Select Alt Delete. It basically just clears up the layer that I have, and that's something that I used often. Another thing that I've done, which I've showed a lot of people, and they kind of get a kick out of it. So like if I'm drawing something, just whatever random character here. So I'm drawing this with a black line. You can see that here on the right side. I can click this one and it gives me an automatic blue line. So you see, maybe it's not as clear. It's kind of light. It kind of lightened up a little bit. But so what it did here is it turned that layer blue, and then it gave me a new layer. So that's just an action command that I created. And this is what I'm talking about, is like when you get into these programs, and then what do I do with this? Let me just finish my thought here, is that then I can go over this with a clean line, right? I'm just doing this quickly so you guys don't get so bored with me doing a demo. And then I can go in and erase or turn off that lower line, or that lower layer. And so what I mean by mastering your tools is just you have to know where all the buttons are, and you have to pretty much know what these things do. Now, these programs now can get really, really sophisticated. Like Photoshop has a timeline where you can do a lot of like animatics and stuff. In fact, that's right here. Let me bring that up. I think it's floating. Yeah, see, I have the timeline in the bottom corner, and that's one way you can do sequential art within Photoshop. But like going through these menus, I know for somebody who's new, it might be really intimidating. After a while, you only need the basic stuff, right? Like here, if I go to the edit menu, one of the most basic things that I use all the time is I gotta be on the right layer for this. But you go in here, and I have an action command for this as well. But the transform tools are something that I use all the time. So like, for example, I could rotate this guy, and I can scale him. So all this, I know where all this stuff is. And basically, once you understand where your tools are and how to use them, then it becomes easy. You just repeat the basics. Like I don't get all crazy. Like this looks really crazy. Look at that interface. It's like all these buttons and gadgets and things, but I keep it really simple. Like even my swatches, I reduced that to just, a few grayscale swatches and a couple of colors. And, other people that do more like background painting and concept art, they'll get really sophisticated with this stuff. But with storyboards, I keep it really simple. I use my layers. I just use a simple standard brush. So if I click on my brushes menu, there's just like a couple of my most familiar brushes here. And then, that's mainly what I'm using all the time. Okay. Let me go to another program that I like to use a lot. This is Autodesk Sketchbook. Now, if you guys are in Drawing and Portfolio Challenge, you see me do this program a lot in my demos. But same kind of thing here. This is why I like the simplicity of this program here, because it's the same thing as Photoshop, but you'll notice how clean the interface is. It's so much easier to use, I find, because and what's the other thing that's really cool is these marking menus. I can just like push this on, push this off. I don't even have to look where that menu is. If I memorize where the marking menus are for this, that's one thing that Autodesk is known for. It's so cool to be able to do that, right? And I just love the fact that it's a fast and simple interface. Like I can make my brush bigger or smaller. Here's like the color wheel. It's all just really intuitive and simple. And that's something that I really like. And then here, this will just erase the layer. So all of that is really cool. You just get familiar with these things. Don't be so afraid to try something new if you're just jumping into these programs. Recently, we're getting hit up by a bunch of people who say, well, I'm not that adept at digital software. Maybe they don't have a setup yet. So this is what I'm talking about, that you can just start with this. This program is free, by the way. So you can download this for free. That's why I think it's really good. And this is a professional level program. In fact, let me show you this. You can even bring up the flip book. Let me, if I remember where that is. See, this is how, here it is, new flip book. So this will give you a timeline within this program. I mean, for a free program to have a timeline, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense when I'm saying like learn your tools. Okay, let's go back to the slides here, and I'll make this big again so we can we can see that. The next one I want you to know about is learn about writing and story structure. Now, this is something that might be news to you, that you probably haven't heard very much before if you're just getting into visual storytelling, because you might think this is just about drawing. But storytelling and sequential art is really about the way that you structure your images one after the other, and that becomes the story structure. And one of the suggestions that I have for you is that you also learn about writing, creative writing, okay? You know, definitely you should know your grammar and your spelling and all, just the basic structure of how you actually write something. Because the reason why is because story work is very much related to the creation of the project, to the creation of ideas. And writers intuitively know this. When they create a script, they also have to know structure, beginning, middle, and end, the elements of story structure, which is the protagonist, the antagonist, like plotting out your conflicts, your subplots. All of these things are elements of story structure that you should study and that you should really know. And I find this stuff really fun and fascinating. So I love it. One of the books that I recommend that's back here on my bookshelf is A Story by Robert McKee. And the other book that I recommend oftentimes is Save the Cat by Blake Schneider. So both of those books, in fact, I think it's almost easier to read Save the Cat first since it's a smaller book. But I highly recommend you know your story structure and your writing skills, because what you're going to be doing as a story artist, you're essentially writing, but you're going to do that with images. You're writing with images, okay? So that's my recommendation for you. Now let's go to tip number 3 is get emotional, okay? Get emotional with your storytelling. You know, you have to sit there and cry and yell and scream and that kind of thing, but get emotional with the drawings that you're doing. And I do want to share another example here about that and show you what I'm talking about. So hopefully you can see this. This is, in fact, maybe I should ask you guys, do you know who this is? All right, maybe some of you do. Shout it out if you do. That this is a famous Disney artist who worked on Dumbo, okay? And do you know, did you guess? Anybody? No? But I just want you to look at these images and see how much character, how much life, and how much emotion is in the pose, how much excitement and kind of visual interest is with these images. I think they're wonderful. Let me go to the next one. Oops, hold on. Check this out. I mean, it's just, this is a story sequence from Bill Peet, who's a famous story artist in Disney who worked in the 50s, 60s, and I think 70s. And he was one of the top story guys there back in the day. And just the wonderful sensitivity of his drawings. And what's kind of interesting too, he did this in the 4:3 aspect ratio. So this is what they were working at back in the time when they made Dumbo. So it's a little more square and not as rectangular and widescreen as we have it now. But I love this shot here with the mother elephant, and then Dumbo's just playing around, around her feet. It's stuff like that really sings and rings true for the character, and then also it's something that the audience can relate to. So emotion is the foundation for everything that we do. That is really, really key. Don't forget that, because with every image that you create, it has to evoke some kind of emotion. Without that, you're really going to be lost, because the foundation of any story has to be with the character relationships and how the audience feels and is either sympathetic or empathetic to that character, okay? So I think these are really great examples of these juggernaut illustrators and story artists back in the day. These are the guys that we should all be studying from, and this is where the art of storytelling came from in a lot of ways, especially for animation, because these guys were inventing it back then. So that to me is really important and really cool. Okay, so back to the slides, and we're at number 3, and so we're going to get through these quickly, and I will show you a couple more things as well. So tip number 4 for storyboarding tips for success is to learn the business of storytelling. This is actually something that I didn't learn until a lot later, because I was so focused when I started out in my career, was learning just the artwork and trying to get my skills up, that I didn't know the business side of things. I didn't know how to properly present myself and create a portfolio, for example, and then actually ship it around so people can look at my work and also know what kind of value you have in the marketplace. Since then, I've actually gotten deep into this subject, and I think it's really, really important to the survival of any professional artist out there. If you think about it, it's key to the survival of anybody who's working in any industry, because you have to advertise and you have to be able to sell yourself in the proper way and show that you have value to the marketplace and show that your services are worth something. And what the value that you bring is that you can solve story problems and you solve them visually. And with that, there really isn't any shortage of work out there if you can do these things really, really well. So I encourage you also to study, and we can talk a little bit more about the specifics with this, but I encourage you to study a little bit of marketing and branding to understand how to position yourself and your artwork in the marketplace. And you really have to have a global idea of what the demands are for the trends in the entertainment industry and what you're going to be working in. So if you want to work for a company like Disney or Pixar or DreamWorks, you have to understand the goals that they're going for in those projects and how to position yourself to even participate with the story teams that are working on those projects. If you're going to do some freelance and you're going to do maybe some live action film work, you also have to understand what kind of work you have to do in order to tailor the services that you want to offer to these guys so that it becomes attractive to them and they'll give you a call. And then you also have to know how to conduct yourself like a professional so that when you are working, that they're going to want to work with you again and again. Okay. So this business of storytelling is really, really cool. Now, a couple of things that I hope will inspire you is that there is no limit to the success that you can have with this. There really isn't. I know people who have worked with creators at the highest level that, for example, the creators of South Park, I know artists who have worked with South Park and worked with those guys, and the incredible success of what they created and their ideas is amazing. And I think if you follow some of the, let's say, top artists or the top directors working in the industry, they are on par with, let's say even live action actors and people working and also getting compensated at a very high level. Let's just put it there, right? Not to mention all the awards and the accolades that you can get, but it's about being part of a team and being collaborative and also being successful so that you can have a career. And really, if you do hit it big like that and you understand the business side of these things, there really is no limit. Because if you sell an idea, you could literally get millions of dollars in compensation if the idea is really worth that and you work up to that. Now, I'm not saying that you can do that easily because otherwise we'd all be doing that. But that's the business side of things that we should be conscious of, okay? The more we understand this part, I think the more successful we can be at the rest of what we do with our artwork. Okay. And lastly, I think this goes without saying, but this is actually really, really important, is to never, ever stop learning. This is one of the most important things that you can do and just ingrain in your brain as a story artist, that no matter how much you know, how much experience you have, there is always something to learn. And as soon as you reach another, let's say level or stepping stone in your career, I think you're going to discover that it just opens up another thing that you can learn and grasp. And that's happened to me many times in my career. It's like becoming a story artist. Even that was a bit of a struggle, and having to learn the way around that, and then moving on into becoming a director. And then from that, actually coming and pitching my own ideas and doing my own projects. That is another stepping stone that I have to learn. And these are all things that I think will continue throughout my whole career. And this is why I love and I admire a lot of the guys, the old guard, let's say, that are working in the industry. Guys like Ridley Scott or Steven Spielberg, who are, they're now seasoned veterans, in the golden years of their life, and they're still cranking out really quality work. So that's the position where I think we should all be. And I think those guys would also probably agree with me that you should never stop learning about filmmaking, about storytelling, about all of this stuff. Okay. So that's all of the tips I had for now. And I think I didn't want to oversaturate this discussion with too many intricacies. And I think what I wanted to do here was open up the discussion and and let's talk about a lot of the things that we covered here, and then anything else that's on your mind. So maybe you agree, maybe you disagree with what I was saying. So I'd love to hear about it. All right. So we're going to go till about 4 o'clock. So I think this is a really good time to just chime in and talk about what's on your mind and what's going on here. So let me scroll through here and let's see some of the most important questions that we have for storytelling. So, all right, let me bring this up. Sai, all right, good to see you again, buddy. Okay, so you have 2 questions. What is your opinion on working for agencies? If you worked with one before, can you share your experience? What is the minimum portfolio? What do you expect from us required for the mentorship program? Oh, okay, cool. You have a mentorship question. Well, let me tackle the first question, and then we can get into the details of the mentorship program for those that don't know what we're talking about. So now I have worked for agencies before, very rarely. And actually in my freelance, when I was doing a lot of freelance, I just got into a network out of, maybe it started with like a random phone call, for example. And then I did a good job for these guys. And then they called me back and I ended up working a couple of times for these people. These agencies, most of the time they were doing work for other bigger companies. So I remember doing work for Google, for like Google internally was doing some pitches. I did a Yahoo pitch. I did one for Cisco and what else? These are all like tech companies in the Bay Area where I was based out of. There was a bunch of them. I can't remember all of them, but so that was my experience working with agencies. Basically that agency, which is an advertising agency, they were trying to create an advertisement pitch for these larger companies. So they were hired by the larger companies and they kind of subcontracted out the storyboard work because they didn't have any person in-house doing that stuff. And when they found me, they liked the kind of work that I was doing, and I would actually go and show up to their studio and do some work over, X number of days for the whatever commercial project they were doing, and then go from there. So I enjoyed that work, and that was really cool work. That was what I would consider just freelance work and work for hire kind of contract basis. Now there are different things that you can do as far as storyboard specific agencies. You can get represented by an agent and a storyboard specific agent. And I think there's a couple that come to mind that I remember, and maybe you guys can help me on this too, is Storyboard Inc. out of LA. There is, there's certainly a lot of previous studios too, like Pixel Liberation Front, I believe was one, and the Third Floor in LA. And these guys would also get some board artists and do a lot of work there too. The ones that would represent you, you would kind of be, on call for them, and then you work out a deal as to what percentage the agency got and then what you got as a story artist. You'd have to, negotiate that deal up front. I have not done that on a regular basis, so I never had the chance to negotiate that stuff. I know, talking with other guys like Tim Borgard and other people that work for agencies, that the commissions can be around 20 to 30% or more. So you want to make sure that you make sure that that's satisfactory up front. So if they're charging you a big commission, at least they should keep you busy and get you the rate that you want for that kind of agency work. Okay. And let me see. Yeah, let me see if there's anything else on there. And if you guys have any tips on the agency stuff, let me know. Now, let me tackle your second question real quick. What is the minimum portfolio, what do you expect from us required for the mentorship program? So that, it depends on an individual basis. I expect you guys at least to have one, the desire. So, well, let me back up a little bit. Let me tell you what the mentorship program is in just brief bullet point notes. In fact, this is probably a good chance for me to bring this up. If you guys are interested, check it out. You can see the registration page there, bit.ly Story Artist Mentorship. And a lot of info is on that registration page. But let me describe what that is. It's a year-long program where myself and my guest co-instructor, Nick Sung, who's an ex-Pixar artist and who's an incredible story artist and a great teacher, we're both going to be your mentors for a year-long storyboarding intensive that covers 12 modules, and those modules are designed to help boost your portfolio. So you guys who have been in the mentorship, maybe you can help us out with some comments here. Because I think to our surprise, the great benefit to that group is the networking and the collaboration that everybody has in the group as we're working together for that full year. So what to expect from you? I can. It goes on an individual basis. What I like to do is judge you on your own growth. So I don't like to compare you to other artists. Now, it's good to look at other artists, but I want to compare and judge you from what you're doing today and what you're going to be doing 6 months and then a year from now. So that's what's important to look on, is the growth that you can do, not necessarily do you have really awesome skills to begin with. The thing is, do you have the desire to come in and improve? And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to design the work and give you the exercises that you can improve and then hopefully grow. Because everybody starts out at different levels, right? And some might have more experience, some might draw faster and have more command of tools than others, and others might just be starting out. Or you might get a couple, like we are going to have a couple seasoned pros in that mentorship program. These guys that are working pros already, that have really good drawing skills, and then we're going to see that the difference in levels. But that's how we learn. We're going to learn by example, okay? And I like you guys to focus on the growth, your individual growth. So we're going to keep all of the things that we do, and we're going to see the progress as we move on in that program. All right, so if you want to find out more, just check it out on that registration page. All right, cool. I love it. There's some discussion about that there. All right, let's go to some more questions here. This is a great question. And before I answer that, let me take a little sip of my drink here. What do you prefer, Photoshop or Toon Boom Storyboard Pro? That's a great question. That really depends on the project. I've used them both. I think they're both quality programs, and it really depends on the end result. Photoshop is not a storyboard specific program, but you can do a lot of drawing and illustration. And now with the timeline feature, you can actually create sequential art and export things in a sequential way. So Photoshop, with all of the tools that it has, you can bend it to be a storyboarding program, okay? Toon Boom is a storyboarding specific software designed for the storyboard workflow. And that there is an advantage to that. Now, the other great thing about Storyboard Pro, and it's getting better with every iteration that they do, you can create an animatic as you are developing your story sequence. So you can start boarding out and then timing out each one of your panels as you're developing your storyboards. And at the end, what you do is you export the animatic, and it's already in one program. And that's a really great speed advantage, because with Photoshop, what I'd end up having to do, most of the time I just create flat drawings. I export those to something like Adobe Premiere or After Effects, and then I start tweaking the timing there. So sometimes I'll have both of those programs open at once, and then I work those programs that way. So it really depends on your end product, okay? Let me see if there's some advantages and disadvantages so Photoshop, one, I think, can handle more sophisticated and complex file formats, and you can do much more sophisticated image manipulation with Photoshop, okay? That's not necessarily storyboard specific, but a couple of things that I have done is create really giant layouts that will save me time, and I'll just do the character pose on this really crazy big background. I'll usually do those in HD, right? And I use Photoshop for that because I can plan it out a little bit better. Now, Toon Boom, you can do similar things, but the drawing tools are limited and the image manipulation is limited. There's not as many like bells and whistles when it comes to tweaking an image. But the package itself is actually really well designed, and we were using that at Lucasfilm is Toon Boom. We also use Photoshop, but one of the main things that we're using is Toon Boom. Toon Boom also has the advantage of bringing in 3D models, so you can bring in 3D backgrounds and also 3D characters. You can animate those also within your kind of Toon Boom timeline to create the animatic, and you can create kind of a 2.5D effect with your animatic and your storyboard sequence, all right? Now, I think there are probably better softwares for doing previs and 3D, 2D blends. Like, I think Blender's one of them, and we're also using an internal program at Lucasfilm called ZViz. So that one was really cool and sophisticated as well. But do I prefer one to the other? It really depends on the program. I think, to me, if I had to create an animatic really fast, I'd open up my Toon Boom. If I'm just doing a one-off story panel, I'll just open up my Photoshop and do that. And then sometimes I'll use Autodesk Sketchbook, which is really simple too. Cool. All right, let me see what else we got here. This is a great question. Now, Miguel is asking, have you tried Clip Studio? It has a timeline too, even cameras, I guess. So no, I have not actually. And I know a lot of people who have, and I've heard really good things about that program. And I'm pretty sure you could probably do a lot of what I'm talking about here in those programs. I also use a program called TV Paint. Did I mention that? You've probably seen me do a bunch of demos on TV Paint. I still like that program. I think it's really good. I'm actually using an older version still, but that's a sophisticated animation program as well. Cool. Yeah, this is true from Jordan here. I've heard of so many programs people use for boards. I think it comes down to what the studios use as a standard. You're probably going to find that Toon Boom is getting more and more popular with the studios just because it has like a standardized way that you can do animatics and export things. You can export QuickTime movies, or I think one movie file as your animatic, and you can export individual story panels. It also has like a couple of templates that you can use that they're already set up for like TV formats, or widescreen HD formats and 4K formats. One thing I would caution you though about with Toon Boom, it had like by the default setting, it has like the title safe and the window safe. So it has like a couple of borders and a couple of frames within the frame that are used as safe guides for titles, traditionally for keeping your compositions within the frame. And when you export that, turn all that stuff off. I find that horribly distracting when I'm looking at a storyboard image or in a portfolio. You don't need any of that. It doesn't add anything to the shot. And most people nowadays don't really use that. You're definitely not going to use that on a final animatic. So get rid of it. Not a fan, I'll tell you that. Krita is quite good too, and it's free. And asking if anybody's using that for storyboarding. So I think there are a couple of people that have used that. So hopefully we can hear from those guys. Yeah. So this is a great comment here from Faith T. Screenwriting plus animation changed my life. Highly recommended this kind of education. Hey, great. I would love to know how it changed your life. Is there any book or specific resource that you recommend for us? That would be really cool to know. And then this is another comment from Sai. Krita is superior in painting than Photoshop. It has amazing brushes for that. Well, cool. I would love to check it out, actually. I know people who they're just so used to one program that they don't like to switch. That happens a lot too. So it's kind of like me with TV Paint. That's like my default sometimes to doing sequential artwork. But you have your brushes set up in Photoshop, or you've done it so many years that if you go to a new program, you just don't want to have to learn the new interface. But if it is better, then that's one way to do it, which is really good. This is funny. I mean, 5 key tips are going to be the key, right? Well, the key really is to unlock your potential. You have to practice and work at it. That is the key. That's the most important part of doing this. It really is. It's not easy. None of the things that we do. I mean, really, there's nothing in life that's easy to achieve that's worth it. I mean, you really have to work at it to make something great. Cool. Love it. I love it. You guys like the Dumbo exercise? Hell yeah. All right, let me scroll through these comments here and we'll pull up some of the most. Thank you for this. So yeah, Story by Robert McKee and Save the Cat. That's by Blake Schneider. And I'll bring those books out too. I can show you guys. I usually talk a lot about that. And yeah, and then Beth is repeating that the book Story is a game changer. Yeah, I would recommend Save the Cat. That's not as popular as Story, because Story's been around a lot longer, by Robert McKee. He's really well known in like the filmmaking circles, and it's a really good foundation. Also, Sid Field's screenwriting book is, I think, like one of the main go-to books for screenwriting. You guys want to check that out as well. All right. Great. I love the conversation. I don't even want to interrupt some of this. Yeah, thank you for this one, Beth. Also, 5 C's of cinematography and shot by shot is awesome. Absolutely. I highly recommend those. Okay, pardon me as I had a little drink. Okay, let me go to Lillian Lee's question. What is something that you wish you knew about the industry when you first got in? Let me think about that. Man, I think if I had known how difficult it would be to find the resources that I needed to succeed, I probably would have done a better job of researching these things before I actually graduated and started working as a pro. Because I did kind of the traditional route where I went to art school, I went 4 years of art school. That was really intense. I learned how to draw. I made some really great friends there and some contacts. I did have like an animation portfolio and a drawing portfolio after that. But when I tried to land a job, that's when I realized how much more I needed to learn to actually get into the business. This is one of the reasons why we started the mentorship program. It's because no one that I know of was doing what we would do inside the studios to train the artists, and the intensive training that you have to do, the specific visual storytelling stuff, the film language stuff. None of that was covered from what I had seen in art schools or like training academies. They would do like a general storyboard class, like, okay, here's a frame, draw something in it. There's much more to it than that. I think you guys are discovering it. So what I wished I had learned is that I wish I really had a life coach or a mentor that would show me something. Okay. Like if I had like a big brother or somebody who, you know, maybe I could lean on. And I did have some really key figures in my life that pointed me in the right direction. It's like one of those things like, you know, the information that you need will appear when you need it. Right. So what happened to me was when I started working, I just squeezed into getting a job, and I started doing story work because I did have some drawing skills. I think I could defend myself pretty well with drawing skills. And then when I got into doing the work, it was a real struggle for me. It was hard. It was super hard. So I couldn't really do it very well. What happened was the supervisors came down and they looked at my work and they said, well, here, sit down with me. Let me show you how this is done. And they would take my work and correct it side by side. They would work with me. And I was that was their job. There's the supervisor. That's what they were supposed to do. And I was so thankful that they were doing their job for me because, you know, they were the ones to supervise me and help train me. That's what they had to do. But I was just like, wow, this guy's teaching me for free. I can't believe it. and not only that, I was working, I was getting paid. So that was like a double amazing experience. And what happens, and that's what happens in the studio system, you end up working side by side with somebody. They correct the work that you do. You know, you do your best intention, you do your best try. But then somebody else has to look at that and see if it's going to fit for the project. And then they tell you why. That's the most important part. They tell you that, oh, this doesn't work because of this, this, and this. And, you know, it could be film language stuff. It could be the way your compositions are structured. For a long time, I struggled with compositions and how to compose a frame really well to make the visual interest really, really punch, and also get the emotional beat really right, which is what we're talking about earlier in the key tips. So that was something I really wish that I had somebody to guide me along. Now, this, you know, like I said, that's one of the reasons why we had the mentorship program there too. But, you know, even if you're not going to do that stuff, here's what I would recommend: that if you're just about to get into the industry, one, that you do a lot of research and know what you want to do. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because it's not just, it shouldn't be this thought, oh, because I thought this myself too. It's like, I just want to get my foot in the door. I don't care what I do at Disney. I'll sweep the floors. I'll do anything there. And I literally thought that stuff because when I just wanted to work in animation and filmmaking. I just wanted to do it. But no, there's more to it than that. You should think longer term and have bigger goals and say, like, once you get in there, okay, I'm actually going to do something, you know, and then in 5 years, you're going to say, well, I'm going to start out as an entry level, but then I'm actually going to work on my own stuff and then, you know, work my way up so that I get more responsibility and I can take on some of these scenes. That's what I think you should be shooting for when you're first starting out. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little sense. Maybe some of you guys have some stories you want to share with us about what you did to start out in the industry. Those are some of my thoughts that I had. So, so that's pretty cool. All right, Justin, I love this. Get emotional. Yeah, baby. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, man, there's a ton of comments in the chat here. Let me just go through these. And this is a great question I think we should talk about. So Itza is asking, when you're working on a storyboard, do you look for reference for every scene or shot, or maybe you don't do this? You know, not every single shot. Sometimes I don't have to do reference for every single shot. But I invite you guys to go to the Drawing a Portfolio Challenge. That's a free training course that we have up. I talked about that at the beginning of this talk here. And if you look at the lessons there, I break down with a couple of demos how I work through my process. And absolutely, I look for reference. I look for film reference, and I look for photo reference as I'm working through my storyboards. The reason why is because you need some kind of spark and some kind of inspiration. And so I'll do this usually in the morning when I like first sit down to work, and I'll start scrolling through I have bookmarks for things like Pinterest, or I'll do a Google search for images, or maybe there's a film that I had in mind that was similar to the project that I'm working on. So then I start referencing these things, and I start doing little sketches and maybe little notes. And that's what I'll use to base on the projects and the sequences that I'm doing at the time. So yeah, I do a lot of reference, a lot. And, the great thing is, connected with the internet, you can just look at YouTube and just find a ton of stuff there. So that's really, really cool and really special. It's so fast to just look at film clips. It's so cool to see images. Like before, you had to have a big library of books, like kind of like my bookshelf behind me. I love art books and art references, and I break out these books often as well. But sometimes if you need something quick or a movie that just came out, you can just do a search on IMDb or YouTube or Amazon, and you can find what you need. That's an amazing gift that we have nowadays. Hey, great. This is from Paul. He's given us a book recommendation. Sidney Lumet's book, Making Movies, is also terrific. I have heard that from other people as well, and I can't wait to read that. That's on my reading list for sure. So tell us how that is and maybe why you think that's great. So cool. Here's another one. Let me bring this one up. Okay, there we go. Okay. It's from Craig. I just read Story Genius by Lisa Cron, which does an excellent job of tying inner conflict to plot. Okay, awesome. I love it that we have some book recommendations going on. Great. Okay, let me go to some of these. Man, tons of questions popping up here. Let me see if I can get to as many as possible before the time runs out here. This one is cool. Okay, any tips for fresh supervisors? How do you explain stuff that comes intuitively to you, to others? When you say intuitive, let's define that a little bit. Because, maybe to some people, it's easy and intuitive. Like, this is the way most people learn stuff. Is like you start out and you start practicing something and you repeat it and you repeat it over and over again. And then what happens is it becomes second nature and you forget how you actually learned it, right? I'm the opposite type of person. I am the one where nothing comes easy to me. Like when I start something new, especially when I was starting with drawing and animation and that kind of stuff, I remember being so scared that I would fail, that I wouldn't be any good at it because it just was not easy. It was really, really hard. So guess what? I had to break down each and every step in a rational way that made sense in my brain based on what the instructors and mentors and everybody else was teaching me. And then I figured it out. Then I started practicing it over and over and over again, but it's by repetition. So what I would recommend to you is if you have a concept that you're trying to tell somebody, take a couple steps back and figure out what you did to actually understand these things. Because if you can explain it and you can rationalize it in your own head, you can explain it to somebody else. And the reason I say this is because I have given, countless kind of demos and instructions to guys on my story teams and people inside the studios, talking to them about composition and balance and shot choices and just film languages and why you place a camera where and when. And I've done this so many times in the step-by-step process of like how you break that down in your brain. It's really, really important to, as a supervisor, to be able to describe these things very clearly to others. Otherwise, what happens is you get something different than you were expecting. You get these surprises that you didn't want. After a while, what you're going to find too is that the people that can pick these story concepts up really well are then able to use the same thinking process and create amazing work. And those are the guys I love to have on my team, because what I can tell to them is say, what we need here is a really awesome dramatic scene. Go. Right? And they take that and they go through all of the thinking necessary in order to create a really awesome dramatic sequence, that the characters are correct for the project, that it's in the same exact style that we have for the rest of the project. And so those are the guys who have learned that story method all the way through. So another tip, if you're a fresh supervisor and you're guiding other people, is just have patience. It's really easy to get frustrated when there's deadlines, and I'll admit myself, I'm not always as calm and clear-headed as I should be when things are hot and there's deadlines that are coming near. That's when you have to be very, very direct and to the point. But at the same time, I really appreciate the people that were nurturing to me, and I'd like to be that for others. So hopefully we can all live up to an ideal like that, but it is difficult at times. But I congratulate you for at least being in the position to supervise other people, and I wish you the best of luck with that. And hopefully you can stay in touch and let us know how that goes and what kind of projects that you're working on for that. All right, so good luck, cat with glasses. This one is great. Let me bring this up because I'm about to destroy the art colleges here. Do you recommend any art colleges in the US that will prepare story artists for work in the industry? I mean, I have yet to see, and I've said this many times within the storyboard program, and I would be happily surprised if you guys can show me an art program that can compare to something like the training that happens inside Pixar. In Pixar, they do an internal training with people that goes for, if I remember correctly, for 4 months, 8 hours a day. And after that training with these interns, they're still not guaranteed a job. I don't know any and these are with the top talent in the story team at Pixar, okay? These guys are the seasoned veterans. There is no better place to learn than inside an animation studio like that, with guys with years and years of experience. And so, unfortunately, this is what I say when I have not seen that kind of program in art colleges or any kind of art training institution. This is why we're trying to fill the void with what we're doing in the mentorship and at Storyboard Art, is that the stuff that we do is coming directly from the horse's mouth. Like, we are working pros, and I'm still working myself. And the struggles that we have on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to share with you, okay? And I'm going to give you the tools that you need, at least to understand and use a thinking process to get around it. That's not to mean that, because I went to art school, I went to a traditional art college. The other factor there that I don't like the recent trend is the expense. The price of these schools are just outrageous. They really are. I thought they were expensive when I went to school. I came out with $80,000 in debt, and I eventually paid that off. But man, that really hurt. And I had a lot of help. My parents helped me, and just everybody around me was helping. But afterwards I had to pay that off. And fortunately, I got what I needed as an education in order for me to grow. But then that point that I'm telling you about, you have to continually learn even after you graduate any kind of program or school. There is no school that's going to teach you how to be a good student, but you can be a good student in any school, okay, or any program. So, hopefully, maybe you guys have an answer. Maybe you guys have a better experience. But what I have seen from the portfolios that come from people who have graduated with a story artist degree, right, storyboarding degree, master's degree, in fact, in some of these schools, the portfolio would not hold water if it was turned into any of the studios that I worked at. So that, to me, is the school doing you a service by giving you a degree and graduating you and charging you, $100,000, and you don't have a portfolio that you can get a job with? That's where I say, wait a minute, you might want to think twice when you get into there. So a couple of tips: if you are going to go to a school, I would research the people that you are going to study with. It has nothing to do with the institution that you're at. If you go to the Harvard of art schools, okay, that's great, but I could care less about the title. I want to know who's going to be teaching you. I want to know who those instructors are, and they better be good instructors. Okay. They better be good at instructing you, right? That doesn't necessarily mean they have to be rock stars, but that they have to be good teachers and inspire you to grow. That's what I think is really important and missing sometimes with traditional art programs. All right. Thanks for letting me rant. Okay. Jason, you're awesome. Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate that. Okay. Let me go on here. And there was a couple questions. Yes, here we go. From Another one from Aloka. Thanks, buddy, for coming back. So if my storyboard is in a JPEG sequence format, do you recommend I present it in 4:4 or 4:4 or 5:3 panels per page, or using something like Speaker Deck or SlideShare? It really depends on the aspect ratio of your storyboard panel. If you do 4:4, so that is, are you saying 4 images in a row by 4 rows? So that 4:4 is 16, and 5:3, you're going to be doing 15 panels on a page. I think you're getting way too many panels on a page. The maximum amount of panels you should have on one page is about 6, maybe 9, if they're really clear panels. You should go down to 4 total on a page. Because they got to be nice and big. And I'll talk about this in lesson 4 and 5 in the Drawing a Portfolio Challenge. You really need to have a good presentation where you can see the images, and none of these tiny little thumbnails that you think, oh, well, I'll just pack it all on there so you can see it really quickly. No. You want to see those big and nice so you can see the drawing skills that you put into that, see the love that you put into these things, and really grow with that. And, hopefully that will land you the job. But you get these tiny little images that's good for nothing. No, I was told that by a Pixar supervisor when I applied to Pixar. So, I got a job there too. So that was good advice that they gave me. And, it made a lot of sense. And I tell that to a lot of people afterwards. So it doesn't matter if it's a JPEG sequence. Certainly that file format is no big deal. Just make sure that the aspect ratio, I think, should be at least 16:9 or wider in a widescreen format. And if it's wide like that, you're only going to be able to put a couple panels on a page. Make them nice and big. So I think if you have really good single panel storytelling images, make those bold, big, and awesome, and put those maybe on one page, maybe 2 on one page. And that way they can see 2 really hot examples of your really awesome drawing. So that should be really cool. All right. Cool. So we only have a couple minutes left. I think let me get to a couple of quick, good questions. Anything goes here. So I love the variety of discussion that we're happening here. Let me go to this one from Chelapop. How do you avoid burnout? Now, this question comes up a lot more often than I'd like. Pardon me. Give me 1 second here. That means you guys are going so hard and so fast, so soon, that you end up burning yourselves out and just working yourselves into, into nothing. And if you're a young in your young career and stuff, that could kill some of the passion and the fire that you have to reach your goals. I think there was another question here that I saw that it got buried in the feed here, but it was about work-life balance. So that's another thing that I think is really important that we should keep in mind. And it sounds like a catchphrase now, work-life balance, and everybody, working great, having free time and whatever. But one of the things that's going to help you avoid burnout is one that you're consistent, so that you're not like one day off and then, one day full on 112%. And then that day it's just like, oh, the next day you have to take 2 days off after that because it's so hard to stay consistent. I think if you set yourself with a disciplined, consistent schedule, and you give yourself within that schedule times to do other stuff that will inspire you. So one of the things that I like to do is certainly on the weekends or usually my week is full. I'll pack Monday through Friday with work stuff and different activities, but my weekends are open for art and creative things. So I'll go out, and it could be as simple as going out to a coffee shop and just sitting down for an hour and doing some sketches, and now I usually do that with my wife, and it's really fun. And even if I just do a little couple doodles, that to me is enough to just like refresh myself. And you really do get some people watching and you get inspired. Now, even, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and some people might be on lockdown and stuff like that, but you can still go outside and look at, something to get you inspired by nature, or just watch a good movie, just unplug a little bit so you're not always doing one thing. Remember, you need input to have some output. So watch movies, watch films, get together with friends, talk about creative things. That's also really important. And I highly recommend, one, that you take care of your physical health, your mental health, as well as your artistic health. Okay. So what I mean by that is you should get exercise. You should eat well. None of this like eating pizza, 7 days a week and never, getting up out of your artist chair, because you're going to end up having back problems and you're going to end up getting like repetitive strain injury. I mean, I remember there was a time I was going so hard my fingers hurt from, clacking on the keyboard and working the mouse. So that is something that, I've worked on, and now it's, I have a better setup. You exercise regularly, you move your body systems around, and you'd be better. And then the other thing is just make sure that you're trying to stay as inspired as possible, so that you don't get so burnt out. Now, remember, this does happen to all of us. So don't feel so bad if you're in a rut, or, you get like artist block. So that's something that you can, just take it with stride, and you'll get through it, and everything will be okay after that. All right. My gosh, pizza is delicious from Wahab. Well, if you weren't doing such a good job fielding some of the responses and helping people out with our drawing portfolio challenge, my friend Wahab, I would get on your case. But thanks, buddy. All right. Yeah, so this is great. Just to echo this as we're getting closer to the end of this chat. But yes, even the studios itself, the animation studios and stuff, they tell you should take a break every 15 minutes. Now that's not always realistic, but I remember when we were at Lucasfilm, like around 3 o'clock, we would all get up and collectively as a story team, we'd go grab a coffee at Starbucks. Even if people didn't like coffee, they just wanted to get up out of their chair and take a walk. And it was really close to where we were. It was like literally a 5 or 3 minute walk. It was really that close. It was right in the same complex. And it was just the fact to get outside, get some fresh air, take a break. And we usually take like a half an hour break, and then we come back and we continue working for the rest of the day. And if you get that caffeine charge, kind of gives you that boost. So, but yeah, you should also pay attention to your health there. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with a couple announcements and let you know what's coming up next, because this is something that we really are proud of and really excited about. The participation here is the Drawing a Portfolio Challenge. I did mention that a couple times during this talk. You can still sign up for this. The sign up is going to go all the way through Lightbox weekend. So the registration will close on Sunday at midnight. So you still have a chance to get their free lessons in and participate with the rest of the group. The results have been amazing. There are some ultra talented people, and it's so inspiring to see that. And I'm really happy to be part of that and hopefully inspire you guys to do some of these things. So I really encourage you to do that and give us a solid and share these things, share it at the rest of the Lightbox Discord, and hopefully that'll help you there. Now let me just tell you what's coming up. So this evening we have another live stream, and this is going to be the portfolio review that's coming up at 7 p.m. Pacific time tonight. We're going to do one more live stream, and that is a storyboard art portfolio review that I'm hosting. And you guys have submitted your work. Now we've been just bombarded by everybody's work, and we are going to pick a select few. We're not going to have enough time to go through everything, but it's going to be a really exciting talk, because just seeing what other people are working on, and we're going to be talking specifics about how to construct your portfolio, how to bring that all together and have the best presentation possible. I'm going to point out a couple of things in everybody's work that I think will apply to your own work. So that's really important that you take a look at that. All right, my friends. So with that, I think we're going to sign off for now, and I will see you guys later on back at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's just in 4 hours from now. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Lightbox event, and let us know what you find and share with us the best stuff. And make sure before we sign off that you share your social media and that you share your website, and you're all connecting together. All right, you guys, I'll give you my logo at the end of this, and then we'll call it a chat. We'll see you on the next round. Take care. Bye-bye.